Welcome back into the mental game, where this week's guest is Bengals legend Anthony Munoz.
You can't identify by the number or the uniform. You have to identify who you are as a person. And I think that's what helped me through those tough times.
And in this episode, Anthony opens up about his Hall of Fame career as one of the best linemen in NFL history. He opens up about what it was like to take the Bengals all the way to the Super Bowl, but also the heartbreaking loss in the Super Bowl, plus his own mental health battles and watching his family struggle with addiction. All of that and much, much more coming up in this interview. But if you know someone going through a difficult situation, sometimes just asking them how they are feeling can make a big, big difference. You know, we all struggle sometimes with our mental health, and we have to be there to help each other with it. So if you need to learn more about tools or resources for someone going through crisis, visit the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation website at ohiospf.org. But now it is time for the latest episode here on The Mental Game with Anthony Munoz. Welcome back into the mental game. As you can see, sitting next to me, a very special guest, Bengals legend, NFL Hall of Famer, the best offensive lineman to ever play the game, Anthony Munoz. Anthony, thanks so much for coming on the mental game.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate those kind words, and I'm looking forward to chatting here today.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation. Obviously, me being a Cincinnati guy, I've been a fan of yours, had a chance to interview you a couple times before. Yeah. So this will be fun to dive into your life, career, mental health, everything that we can talk about here on the show. But the first thing I ask everyone is, what does mental health mean to them? And everyone's got a unique answer because everyone's mental health journey is different. I don't know if maybe there was a time in your life that maybe hit you that made you take better care of it, or maybe it's something you've always been aware of and cognizant of. But I'll ask you the same thing. What does mental health mean to you?
Well, mental health to me, it's not something I've always been aware of, but I had a chance early in my life to really deal with it and to see how I was going to deal with it. And that was in college. I mean, I think, everyone has different things they deal with, and mine was the injury factor. Going to a major school, USC, with all these plans of playing, first of all, starting and playing in Rose Bowls and national championships, and it was far from what I'd planned there. 3 knee operations in 4 years, so I had to deal with that. I got married, so I'd been married 2 years during that time, and what I learned about mental health that has really helped me out, as an adult and now as a grandfather, is that you can't do it alone. I mean, you have to acknowledge it. You have to take advantage of the resources there, and a lot of times it's tough. But that was one of the things I learned quickly as a 19-year-old freshman, 17, 18-year-old freshman, and then through my college career, is that going through those injuries, I had an amazing resource, a lot of resources I took advantage of, from the doctors, the trainers, the physical therapists, my teammates, not isolating myself from my teammates. In sports, it's very easy when you get hurt, the team is preparing for a game, and you just isolate yourself because, you're injured, they don't need you. And one of the things I did, not because I knew about it, but I didn't isolate myself from my teammates. I stayed there as much as I could when they prepared, during games. I was there all the time. So it's really not being isolated. And through the injuries, my second injuries, I was married, my last 2 injuries, so my wife was very supportive. So it's something that, can become tough at times. You want to just kind of isolate and pull away. But mental health to me is use those around you to help you get through the certain situations.
That's an amazing answer to that question. Diving back into your early life, your family, you grew up in California. Your mom was working really, really hard to support you and your siblings. What did you take away from how you grew up and watching your mother work so hard that kind of just set the bar for you with your work?
Well, so first of all, you mentioned mom. She worked 2-3 jobs. I mean, they're not easy jobs. They were out in the fields picking grapes, at an egg ranch packing eggs, ironing clothes for teachers, cleaning house for the couple that owned the egg ranch. So, raising 5 kids by herself, and of course she was one of 9, so there There was a lot of relatives around. But the two things I learned from her. The first thing, she didn't have to sit us down and say, okay, guys, this is what work ethic's all about. All we had to do was watch her walk to work at 6:37 in the morning, cross the railroad tracks, and come back at 4:30, and then fix dinner. That we learned. That's what it means to have work ethic. I mean, it was one of those things that she always provided for us. If it was just one present at Christmas, we had a present. We had a Christmas tree. She made sure of that. The second thing she did teach us was responsibility. Athletics came early in my life, and I loved sports. But during the school year, in order to get out and play in Southern California, you can play baseball year-round.
Right.
And baseball was my first love. During the school year, if I wanted to go play any kind of sport after school, do your homework first. Responsibility. Do what you have to get done first. Then you can enjoy the athletics. During the summer, I mean, you hear the phrase, a good day for two. For me, it was a good day for three because, we'd go early in the morning and play all day long. Baseball games. But before I would leave, we had to do our chores around the house. I'm not talking just dust the furniture. We had to wash clothes. We had to iron clothes. We had to wash dishes. We had to clean the house. We had the lawn to. So we had some, at a young age, we learned to cook. We learned to do all the necessities because mom was working. And so those two things, work ethic and responsibility, I can look at what I went through, as a kid, high school, then what we talked about in college, and then even my professional career, and even now. Work ethic and responsibility, getting it done, and hard work, and that's what I learned, and I'm thankful for that.
Your mom working so hard to provide for herself, your family, you saw that, and you, just in your blood, were like, all right, I have to do this, follow her lead. But on the mental health side of things, did you ever see her struggle with her own mental health, or was that something she hid from you if she was, or did she just put her head down and do what she had to do?
I think now that I look back, she hit it pretty well. I mean, the fact that she had to raise 5 kids, then at a young age, she got rheumatoid arthritis, never complained, never really complained or seeked help. I mean, she just put her head down and grinded it out and got it done. And so it was something that she never let us see that, she was hurting or she never complained. We just did what she asked us to do. If we didn't do when she asked us, we did when she told us to do it. But she was phenomenal as far as keeping things from us.
How close were you and your siblings growing up, and did you all play sports together after school? And how did that go? Because I have one brother, but I know having a big family like that, there can be some fighting, there can be some tussles, but it seems like you and your family were pretty close.
We're close, but we had our times. I mean, I was the middle of 5, 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters. I was the middle of 5. My 2 older brothers, one was 2 years older than me. That's the one we lost, and had one that was 8 years older than me. So 4 of us were pretty much right in that same age range. But then we had a brother that was, in high school when I was still pretty young, out of the house. We had our tussles. I mean, up until I became a freshman and I grew about a foot taller than both of them. They didn't mess with me physically. They pretty much had their way with me physically. Yeah. But they were great examples with athletics. I mean, they took me under their wing at a young age, and that's why baseball was my first love. Both brothers played baseball, very competitive, and I just jumped in with them at a very young age and they taught me not only the game, but I'll never forget my oldest brother, who's 8 years older than me. And little did I know that he was teaching humility. I mean, you talk about my mom, responsibility and work ethic. I'll never forget when I started playing baseball and my older brother saw that I had a lot of talent in baseball. One of the first things he said, he goes, "You don't have to talk about how good you are. If you're good enough, people will talk about you." And to me, that was humility. Go after it, get it done, and you don't have to say anything. And that carried over through high school, college, the pros, and even now. I mean, it's like, you just get it done. If people think you're good enough for doing it, they'll let you know. But you don't have to, blow your own horn. You don't have to, pat yourself on the back. You just get it done. If it's good enough, people will recognize that. That's
a great message from your brother. I'll go ahead and tell you that you're pretty good at football. It seems like it with baseball, too, obviously. You go to USC. Yeah. It's a dream for you to play at a school that I'm sure you idolized growing up. Baseball was your first love, and so a big part of you committing there was the fact that you could play baseball and football, right?
You're right. Up until like my junior in high school, I was still thinking baseball. During the season, I had scouts at my games, but once I signed at USC, that pretty much eliminated all of that because I was going to school there and play football. But USC, you're right. From a young age, I mean, growing up 40 miles from the campus, watching them, play football, the big white horse, going around the track. But then I heard about their baseball program. And the crazy thing about it is, in Westwood with John Wooden winning all those national championships in basketball, that was what you saw. But at the same time, USC had Rod Dato, a baseball coach, that was winning just as many national championships in the baseball diamond. So, man, when I found that out, I said, I got to go there and play football and baseball. And a lot of schools found that out when they recruited me, and that was a recruiting pitch. But I knew it wasn't a recruiting pitch for USC. They had a track record of letting guys do that. If you're a football guy and good enough to play baseball, come on, play baseball. So I knew that. So that was the arrangement when I decided to sign and go to school and play football there. Coach Dato said, you can play football or baseball. So I did that. Back then, Wooden was winning, 9, 10 national championships, and Rod Dato had about the same, 10, 11 national championships. I mean, and, it's funny you mentioned that because my recruiting trip to USC, you go in for the weekend, Friday night to Sunday night, and it's all football, and they show you around. I went in Friday night, spent time with the football people, but Saturday morning, in fact, I was just with my good friend out in California, 5 couples that we all were freshman football players, linemen. We celebrated my wife's birthday not long ago, and one of the other linemen and I were baseball guys. And the story I'm going to share with you, he sent me a picture. Saturday morning after Friday, we were on the bench at Dato Field. It was a USC alumni game against the Major League All-Star team. So I'm sitting on the bench. Alan Pugh and I are sitting. There's Tom Seaver. There's Freddie Lynn, there's Rich Dower, there's Don Buford, and there's all these major, and we're sitting there going, guys, remember, this is a football trip. And so we did that. God. Then after that game, we did all football, dinner with the football guys. Then Sunday morning, we're back with the baseball team because the tradition was the USC varsity team would play the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in an exhibition game, and then the Dodgers would go to Vero Beach for spring practice. And so that next morning, Alan and I are sitting on the bench in Dodger Stadium with the USC varsity team, and they're playing the Dodgers. I mean, think about the Dodgers. I don't know if you're old enough. In the 70s, say Russell Lopes, Garvey, Yeager, Don Sutton.
Dynasty.
I mean, so we're sitting on the bench and Lasorda, and then the rest of the day it was football. So, baseball was still very big. I wish I could have played more. Wish I could have played more football there too. Yeah. But, it all worked out in the long run, but it was tough at that time.
Your time at USC was up and down with football. You mentioned you wish you could have played more. Yeah. You had, I think, 3 surgeries. Yeah. Both like on your knees, on your legs?
2 on my right knee, 1 on my left knee.
And so going through those injuries, that's mental health 101 when it comes to athletes. How did you get through your time there and not quit and give up on the game when you are going through those injuries on the field?
Well, I think, again, getting back to what I learned, the work ethic. Is at USC I learned how to compete. I mean, you get there as a I got there as a freshman, parade All-American, all this. There's 30 parade All-Americans there. My first day of practice, I'm lining up against a 2-time All-American who that year was a senior. He's the number 5 pick in the draft. So I learned how to compete. I learned how to work extremely hard. And I think from what Mom taught us and then going to USC, learning to compete and knowing what they expected from you there, I really believe that helped me through the knee operations. My freshman year, 9 games into the season. My junior year, 7 games into the season. My senior year, second time we had the ball, first game of the season. My sophomore year, I was healthy. I played the entire season. But because my freshman year, you're a freshman, you're young, you're playing a lot, but then, you're 18 years old, you have surgery, you rehab. Sophomore year, you're healthy, you're starting, you play baseball that year, you win a national championship in baseball. And then my junior year, we're ranked number 1 in football. I'm starting 7 games in the season. We have a Heisman Trophy winner, we win a national championship, but I only play 7 games. Then my senior year, coming off the national championship game, we're ranked number 1 again. I mean, we're loaded. Our team is loaded. Yeah. And for second time we had the football, this time my left leg, I missed the entire season. One of the things a couple things you go to USC for, I did as a football player. You play UCLA, you play Notre Dame, and you play in the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
So after getting hurt that third time my senior year, we had played in 2 Rose Bowls. I hadn't played in 1. We had 3 Notre Dame games. I played in 1. 3 UCLA games. I played in 1. So I missed every Rose. So I was determined after that third knee operation, and it kicked in. A lot of people thought I was nuts because, again, let's get back to the mental health, the support I had.
Yeah.
I knew the doctor fixed it. So now it's my job to utilize the trainers to help me rehab, the strength coach to get my strength back, and surgery in September. December, I started practicing for the Rose Bowl after having that knee operation. My wife was amazing, very supportive, but I still think they thought I was a little nuts, because I was like in a cast. Back then, you had a cast on for a while.
Yeah.
I get out of the hospital, I'm jumping rope with one leg. As soon as I get the cast on, I'm riding a bicycle, I'm lifting. And so as soon as Rose Bowl practice started, I went out and started practicing. I had to talk the coach into it. He wouldn't go for it. He was concerned.
Yeah.
Third knee operation, 4 years. I said, I want to play in this because all the guys I'd come into school with, we were all leaving, and I'd yet played in the Rose Bowl with them. And so I finally convinced him. He let me practice. I played in the entire game. But again, getting back to it, I'm not going to say it was easy because there was times my schedule was basically back then the backpacks weren't real, in. But I had a backpack, crutches. I'd go to class. I'd go to rehab. I'd strength train. Then I'd go back to my apartment, do some homework, and I'd have to say I'd shed some tears. Didi and I'd sit there and not knowing what was going to happen. So it was tough. I'm not going to say that, workout, school, man, I was up every time, but it was tough. But you learned how to fight through it, and you learned. I had a ton of friends. I got involved in Bible study my sophomore year. So again, resources.
Yep.
All these guys that I could meet with. There was about 6 of us that were married at that time. So we had 6 couples that we could meet with and just talk through things. It wasn't like Didi and I were isolated and just, no, we can handle this alone. We knew, I tell people, I didn't know a whole lot then. I don't know a whole lot more now, but I knew that we had to be with people. We couldn't be isolated. So just all the people, all the resources that I can look back and say, man, thank you for being there. And again, it wasn't like, hey, I know I got to do this. It was just, in here, I knew I had to do it. Up here, I didn't have all the knowledge of what you had to do here.
Yeah.
It was just here knowing that I needed people around me.
It's super powerful to hear you talk about that story and working hard to those goals that you have in your head, playing in the Rose Bowl, getting to do that, but also all that hard work through all the injuries, through those tears, those tough nights. You get the call from the Cincinnati Bengals to come here and play for a team that I don't think your wife even knew where Cincinnati was.
Neither one of us did.
Yeah, and so you get that call, but how big of a dream come true was that for you to get drafted to the Bengals?
Well, it was huge because, even though I played in that Rose Bowl, everyone was saying, well, what a great way to end a football career. Now go see what you're going to do in your real life work, because you're not going to get a chance to play in the NFL. You have 3 knee operations. Nobody's going to take a chance on you. But after that Rose Bowl for 4 months, going to class, and it's kind of the same thing. Class, I wanted to finish up, and then going and working out, just busting. The guys, the strength coaches that got me back, I just stayed there. Me and my buddy stayed there and just busted it. I said, if I can just sign as a free agent, I just want a chance to go to an NFL camp to see if I can compete on that level. Little did I know that the Bengals, with the 3rd pick in the draft, would call me. And I tell you what, that morning when Didi and I got that call in our 1-bedroom apartment, draft day, when, all the experts said, man, you're not going to play anymore. But we just kept busting. I just said, if I don't get a chance, it's not going to be because I'm not physically ready. Because, I just, you talk about weight training and getting ready. And when the Bengals called, man, secretary said, Anthony, can you hold the Cincinnati Bengals? And I did this with the phone. I looked at Dee and I went, it's the Bengals. And we all knew they were the 3rd pick of the draft. So the coach gets on, McNally, they just hired him, says, Anthony, you're our man. We'll talk later. I hung up. Man, this big guy just started weeping. I composed myself, and I said, Didi, we're going to the Cincinnati Bengals. And we both then pause and go, we're Cincinnati. I did know one thing. Being a big baseball fan, I watched Saturday morning baseball all the time. I knew that the Bengals played right on the river. Because I used to watch the Big Red Machine play their games at Riverfront Stadium. But we had to pull out a map and kind of check it out. And, of course, 43 years here in Cincinnati, we know where Cincinnati is now. But, yeah, that call was, that was a life changer. Little did I know that, those 4 years at SC, what I went through and my support group, my friends, just everybody that helped out, and especially Didi and my faith that we'd be sitting in Cincinnati and playing 13 years for the Bengals.
You get that dream call, and then you do have a really dream come true career. I know it's going to eat at you like any other athlete. You want to win that championship, but you got to play in 2 Super Bowls. You played with some amazing guys, including 2 great quarterbacks in Kenny Anderson and Boomer Esiason. When you look at your Bengals career, What do you love the most about it? What do you take away the most from that experience?
So first of all, when I see videos at my age, and I think I still pinch myself. Hey, you played 13 years for the Bengals, and you mentioned all that. I mean, you mentioned the games, the guys. I think the one thing I take away from 13 years, you mentioned a couple of them, Kenny Anderson, Boomer Esiason, the relationships. I mean, we've been here forever, and the number of guys that I played with that are still in Cincinnati, that we still have amazing relationships with. We help each other out with our foundations. We try to get together. We see each other a lot. So I'd have to say that's probably the first thing. And knowing that there's probably at least a dozen of us that are from the LA area that still live here after retiring, but it's the relationships. And then not only the guys you play with, but after you retire, the guys you compete against. Those relationships, because you respect each other like crazy because of what we went through. You might not have liked them when you were playing against them, but after the fact, you retire and you get to see them a lot. You respect them and those relationships. So I'd have to say the relationships that continue to last for years and years and years.
You've mentioned relationships a lot with the word and also throughout talking about mental health, whether it's your mom, your siblings, your teammates, coaches, strength trainers, everyone that's involved in your football and life journey. In Cincinnati with the Bengals through your NFL career, you have the highs of going to Super Bowls, you have the highs of playing great, and like I mentioned, one of, if not the best offensive linemen to ever play the game. What were the darkest moments and tough times that you had with your mental health through your NFL career?
You know what? Again, two of them you mentioned, losses in Super Bowls. That was tough. I mean, because you work from off season. People think but all off season, and but then again, when you understand that that's what you do, that's not who you are. That helps you get over that. And I think the one thing I learned in college, going through the tough times with injuries, is that you can't identify by the number or the uniform. You have to identify who you are as a person. And I think that's what helped me through those tough and even injuries in the pros, which, I didn't miss a lot of games during the season, but I had surgeries after the season.
Yeah.
Those are the dark times. You start to get close to 30 and you're rehabbing and you want to, can I get back and play? I'm getting close to 30 years old now, playing this young game. So those, I guess, are the times that happen. And then, of course, living in Cincinnati, and my whole family's in California, you start losing some relatives. And those are I'd say those are tough times. There's several that we paid, for their funerals, drive-by shooting, losing cousins and stuff. And so during my playing days were probably the relatives you lose when you're here, 2,600 miles away, and you have to deal with that long distance. I have to say that's probably one of them too. But, same thing, injuries, through, when you're playing. And so I'd probably say that's the physical mental health probably been the majority of my life through, growing up playing and stuff.
Did you deal with depression, anxiety through those injuries, through losing relatives, and just how did you get over those moments? Was therapy ever an option for you back then?
You know what? If I had to have it, I wouldn't hesitate. But I've never been one that has dealt with depression or anxiety. I'm just thankful that God wired me, and I didn't really, even going through all that, with me, the way I dealt with things is go work out. I'd go work out. I'd go do, and that helped me. That would, so if I didn't have that, maybe anxiety, depression might have been an option for me. But even now at my age, if I'm dealing with maybe feeling sick or something, I just go work out for an hour or 2 hours. And it kind of relieves things. Then I can deal with things, and it clears my mind. I'm ready to go. It's
a healthy coping mechanism. It's what I tell people all the time with mental health. Just do something that makes you happy, that can get you going in the right direction. Obviously, that's a big key for you. Off camera, you just talked about your family and friends and losing people that you love. Off camera before the interview, we had mentioned your brother and things that he had maybe struggled with addiction. Seeing that, what was that like for you? How were you able to try to help him, and what were the biggest struggles with his addiction?
We try to fix things. I think a lot of times when you're in a position to fix that, and you learn you can't fix things for other people. You can help. You can be resources. My brother was 2 years older than I was, so he was we were in high school together. I was a sophomore in high school. He was a senior. I mean, he was pretty popular in high school, and I was kind of a quiet, doing my thing in sports and with my friends. And one Friday night, we roomed together we had 3 rooms in the house, and we roomed together in the back bedroom. And Friday night, I was home with my 2 sisters, my mom watching, the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family, and he was back in the back with a friend getting ready to go out as a senior in high school, and they came up, and I'm on the ground. He started wrestling with me, and all of a sudden, he's laying in my arms, and he's turning purple. Thank God we had a hospital, 2-3 blocks from our house. I was a big kid at that time. I was about 6'4", 6'5", and I was able to get him and put him in the car, and we took him right to the hospital. We didn't call 911, and his friend gave the medical staff the information they needed, so they revived him. He made it. Come to find out, he had OD'd on heroin that night, and so he had an addiction problem for a long time. The last 20, 25 years of his life, he lived in Houston. I had a chance several times to hang out with him and really mend the relationship. He had really blamed a lot of things on me, that decisions he was making, but we had a chance to really come together. But he had been married, and his wife would kind of tell us he still had some problems. They divorced, and he was with the gal, and we got word a couple years ago he had a massive heart attack. She assured us that they were clean. I guess they met at a rehab place, and she said he had been clean for 2-3 years. But yeah, he had an addiction problem for years and years. And for me, it was just talking and trying to, to hear, to listen. I guess this is the main thing, is to be a listener for him and try to give any kind of advice and let him know that we're there to help. Yeah, it was, again, a long distance relationship, Cincinnati, Houston, Texas. Didn't see him a whole lot, occasionally, but it was one of those things that you just have to be being able to listen to him and let him share, and let him know that we love him and stuff. So it was very tough because he would say at times, yeah, I'm fine, but when I talked to him, I knew he wasn't fine. So I don't think he got help. He kind of hid it too. Mm-hmm. So that was tough for me, having a sibling that was going through that. And again, not being able to fix things. I learned a long time, we can't fix things. We can try to be a source and try to, help out, but we can't fix things.
Thank you for sharing that, because I know it can be tough. And for me personally, I've lost 3 friends from ODs, and one of them happened to one of my best friends in 2020. Mm-hmm. Couldn't have a funeral for him because of the pandemic, and you try everything you can to help them go to rehab or to stop and unfortunately, the thing with addiction is that person inside, just with mental health and addiction, anything in life, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I have to make this change, or else there's a chance that you might not be here. You might not be able to win that battle with the addiction, with the depression, with the suicidal thoughts. What would be, your message maybe to somebody that has a sibling or a family member that's struggling with that to try to push them in the right direction? Because I've been in that same shoes myself. I've struggled with alcoholism, and I've just hit over 8 months sober now. Awesome. And so thank you. Yeah. But it really does take a support system to try to make that change, right?
Yeah, it is. And, my wife had an older sister that left California, moved here. We lost her about 20 years ago to breast cancer, and she left a daughter here and a granddaughter. Well, the granddaughter had a little baby, and so my sister-in-law's granddaughter, it's been a few years, 7-8 years now. We lost a niece to drug overdose, and again, we tried everything. As an aunt and uncle, we offered to pay for college. She said, I want to be go to culinary school. We offered to play culinary school. So we tried to incentivize her to but they have to make the decisions. People have to make decisions. We can try to assist. And what I would say to siblings, just try to help out. Know that you can't fix it, but be there to support, be there to listen. And the main thing is just continue to let them know you don't condone, you don't agree with them, but you love them. Mm-hmm. And that's, you love them. You want the best for them. And that's really all I can say, is that you have to just be there and encourage, try to help out. But no, again, I can't say you can't fix it. You can't force someone to do something. You can encourage them, but you can't So that's we had that. So with a niece here, the last 7-8 years we had that. We tried to help out, and it just didn't happen.
Yep, it's a tough battle for that person, for the family and friends. You have to try to get through it together and hope that they want to make that change in the mirror. We got about 5 minutes, so I want to try to flip the script a little bit and have some fun here. And those were very, very powerful words, and I think I do want to point out listening is so key. And when I struggle with my suicidal thoughts, just having somebody to vent to, my cousin Zach, who's basically my brother, just him listening helped keep me here. Have you noticed somebody in your life just not being themselves recently? Maybe you've seen them be more mad or sad or just not hang out around you, your family, or friends as much. That person might be going through a mental health crisis, and we have to be there to help each other. You've heard Anthony and I talk in this episode about my mental health struggles, about his brother's addiction struggles, and how we had to be there for each other to get through those tough situations, struggling with depression, anxiety, and addiction. And you can find a bunch of training, resources, and many ways to become a suicide prevention advocate with the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation. You can find all the tools and resources you need for you or someone you love at ohiospf.org. Again, that is for the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation, ohiospf.org, so we can help each other with our mental health. Getting into the fun things with the Bengals, I have to ask you about what we're looking at now. You have a team that has Joe Burrow, has all those offensive weapons. You being a lineman, I'm sure you've studied and watched the shuffling and the signings up front throughout the last couple of years. This team, when this episode is recorded, they're 2-3, hopefully going to get to 3-3 before a bye. What are you seeing? What are you liking from this team?
Well, I guess it doesn't surprise me the way some teams start in today's game because, quite frankly, they don't play preseason. Yeah, and maybe they are good enough where they don't need preseason. But I think, especially in offensive line, you need, and they got some pretty good offensive linemen here. You need some action together. You bring in a new tackle, Smith. You move one tackle to the right side, and then you get health back. So you have 5 guys. But you need to play some preseason. Not that you have to play a half, but I think you need something live. So I see them getting better and better now. No injuries, but get better and better. And this team will get better and better. Joe's getting healthier. And I think the way they started, it was just, to me, in my humble, that was a couple preseason games, Yeah. Because, practice is one thing, but game situation's another. So, it'd be nice to be 3-3 at the break. Beat Seattle, and then I think they'd be in a good position. Last week against Arizona, the way Joe moved around, there was just such a big difference in his health. And so I like what's going on defensively. I think we're still pretty strong. We have, I think our defense is pretty good. So I like what I see. I've been excited the last couple of years with this football team and the moves that they've made. Zach, I love Zach and the assistants. I love what they're doing. Again, we talked about Super Bowl earlier. I think you only have a certain window and I think they still have that window open. I think they still have even though they started out like they did, I think this is a team that can turn things around.
You're obviously still a fan of the Bengals. Yeah. You live here in Cincinnati. You watch, you support on and off the field. And I want to touch on this too. Your foundation is, we talk about listening and helping and trying to guide, especially people that are younger than us, in the right direction and help them out the best we can. How impactful has it been to be a part of your foundation these last 20 years in Cincinnati?
Yeah, 22 years. It's been phenomenal. Very thankful. It has my name on it, but it's not about me. It's about our team and, our staff, our volunteers, our interns, our board, and, of course, the community, the amazing corporate partners we have. And to be able to impact the number of young people that this team has been able to, to me, that's what motivates me. That's what energizes me now, is being able to do that through our educational programs, our scholarships, and our mentoring, through our leadership, and through our character. And to see now these young men and women being productive citizens in our community. I'll go into some of the companies that have been partners forever, and we see interns working there, or scholarship kids working there, or kids that have been to our camp. So to me, that's what it's all about. Is there are a lot of very, very talented young men and women that have some amazing gifts. They might need someone to put their arm around them and just say, hey, we believe in you. They might need a little assistance in continuing education with the scholarship, or they may need to go away for a 3-day camp and just, hear what it means to be a person of character. I might not look like you, but we got to work together.
Yep.
Respect each other. Respect yourself. And, they come back, and then all of a sudden they're sharing that message in their home, in their community, in their schools. And to me, that's what we've been able to do for 22 years with the amazing team we put together.
It is amazing and powerful, the work you do. So for me, thank you for doing that, because seeing the way that you mentioned, you have kids that come in, you just need a little bit of guidance.
Yep.
And it becomes a very empowering experience for both them and you. Last thing I want to ask you, advice. I usually ask for advice to the career that you're in. I think I'm going to get specific here, but advice to that kid that maybe is dreaming of getting to college football, getting to the league, but is battling those injuries and just might be a little down. What advice would you give to that person?
Well, I think the thing I learned is make sure you're not tunnel vision and just focusing on one thing. That's why I do what I do with the foundation. It's to impact young men and women mentally, physically, and spiritually. I think you got to take care of everything. The mental part of it. Make sure you're as good a student as you possibly. Take advantage of the education. The physical part. Just do something healthy all the time. And a lot of us, spirituality is different for each one. But that's been for 45 years. That's been the number one key for me. So what I would say is that you need to make sure that if it's a sport, that it's just not sport all the time.
Yep.
One of the things I did, even when I was playing with the Bengals, I got my real estate license. I tried the building. I did several things, to make sure, even though, I knew that my primary job was to play football, to provide. I did that on the side just to see what was out there after I retired. And, so I would say just focus on it, give it everything, but focus on your relationships, focus on your school. Just focus on the other things that are just as important as how fast, how strong, how well you can shoot, how well you can jump, how fast you can throw, fastball, or how well your curveball, how well you can hit. That's the advice I would give.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for your time. This has been an awesome conversation.
Brandon, thank you.
You're a Bengals legend, NFL Hall of Famer. You got some work to do. We need to get you out of here so you can get your work.
I got a job now. I can't just relax.
All right, we'll let you get to it, and we'll see everybody right back
you.
here next week on The Mental Game. And that was an amazing conversation with Anthony. I can't thank him enough for really opening up about his Bengals career. I'm a big Bengals fan, so it was a real honor to get to hear him talk about going to the Super Bowl, all of his amazing memories here in Cincinnati, and of course, the incredible work he does with his foundation. Once again, a big thank you to Anthony Munoz. Coming up next week, right back here on The Mental Game, it is another surprise guest, and your one hint, a musician with songs all over the radio. That is your one hint, and we'll see you right back here next week on The Mental Game.